So today I would ask you to have a bolster. Now, if you don't have one at home, don't worry. Grab a few cushions, roll up a blanket. And if you have a spare mat, for example, you could roll up the mat and then bring a blanket around it. So these are all just options on how to create a bolster without having one. It would also be maybe beneficial to have a block or two. If you don't have that, you can replace that with firm cushions or books or boxes. I don't know, something that you might have in your space. We will begin the practice as oftentimes lying down. Now, this week, as I'm playing a mantra, and I will keep that playing throughout the class. Let me know if it does disturb the sound. The mantra that I've chosen for this week is the Maha Mantra, or the Great Mantra. It is in its simplest form only consisting of 3 words, and that is Hare as in honoring. We've got Krishna and we've got Rama there. So if these deities don't mean anything to you, please do not worry about it. I'm more after the quality that this mantra might help us with. And it could create more inner peace and a deeper trust that everything is being taken care of and protected. So I will start playing that as you find your way down onto your backs. You can already use the bolster if you like, by simply resting your knees over it. If you feel it's appropriate, you could have a thin cushion underneath the head. Maybe for a moment, just letting the mantra wash over you. Or you could choose to sing along in your mind. You might consider beginning to deepen your breaths. Maybe allowing the breath to expand in a full yogic way from belly to ribs to collarbones, and out from belly to ribs to collarbones. If you feel it is appropriate, maybe beginning to add Ujjayi technique, a light constriction in your throat, lengthening, deepening the breath. Maybe your breath is starting to align with the music, the mantra. Allowing yourself to be physically connected inwards as you keep observing, deepening your breathing. But maybe also beginning to connect more to your heart space. Well, you might choose to keep the breath flowing just as it is right now. Your body remaining relaxed. Just allowing to move the head while keeping it grounded loosely from side to side. If you notice there's a particular area of tension somewhere, you could find your way to that spot. And as you might rest over to one side, you could increase the stretch by maybe moving the opposite shoulder a bit further downwards. And then repeating to the other side. Maybe there's tension too, maybe there isn't. Just trying to get the body into balance as you pause on the other side. And if you experience the tension here too, maybe drawing the opposite shoulder down again. And then rolling the head a few more times from side to side. You center the head again. Stepping your feet down onto the ground. So if you've got a bolster underneath the knees, just push that out and away from you. You might have to adjust your back a little bit as you're landing with your feet on the mat. And taking your right knee into your chest as you're breathing out. If you prefer your left leg now to be long, you can extend the leg out. And then opening your knee a little bit to the side. Maybe your left hand comes to the hip to keep the hip open and not roll over to the side. Bringing your knee back to center, changing the hand on it. And now the hips can move as you're guiding your leg across. I'll ask you to roll a little bit from side to side, grounding hand to the hip as you're opening again. Center and twist. So you might align your breath with the movement as you're inhaling to open your knee to the side. So keeping your slow breath going. And on the out breath, coming in for a twist. Repeat the movement just twice more. Once you have completed the movements, you might rest for a moment within the twist. You could even let go of the knee and just open the arms. Bringing your knee then back into the center, softly extending the leg towards the ceiling and taking a gentle hold behind the leg. You could choose to flex or point the foot, whichever feels right, or even hold it halfway in between. Be kind to this stretch and your body, as the body might still be quite cold. Then bending the knee again, step your foot onto the ground. Maybe bring the other foot onto the ground again as well. You might want to shuffle a little to find your comfort lying down again. Now bringing your left knee into the chest. And if that feels good, you can extend the right leg out, but you could also leave the foot on the ground, just allowing to bring a bigger squeeze in. Then take your hand onto the knee, let the other hand come to the hip, and open your knee out towards the side. Keeping the pelvis here in balance. Bringing your knee back to center, change the hand on the knee and carefully guide it over for a twist. Let's create a movement from that hand on the hip as you inhale to open the knee out. Changing for a twist on the exhale. And then keep that flowing in your own pace. While you're inhaling, come to open. And when you're exhaling, go into the twist, always changing the hand on the knee. When you next enter a twist, just pausing in it if you like. And if you want to relax more, release the hand from the knee and just hold the knee across. Coming back into center, extending the leg to the ceiling, taking a comfortable hold behind the leg and choosing whether to point, flex or bring the foot halfway in between as you're engaging to draw the straight leg in towards your body. Quite kind, body cold, so you might feel an intense stretch there. Just making sure you're right. Then bending the knee again as you place this foot onto the ground. Let the other foot come onto the mat as well. And just rolling over onto your left-hand side. Bring the hand down in front of you and push yourself up into a seated shape. I will ask you from here to find support in your seat, and that could be your bolster, your block, a cushioning, whatever feels very comfortable for you. If it's possible, find an easy pose like this. If you need a little bit more support because your hips are feeling very tight, You could use blocks or further cushions underneath the legs to make it even more easy to sit like this. So I will leave those here for you to copy if you like. And we're finding a nice and tall seated position. I have a tendency here to lean slightly forward, and as I know a lot of people do, just see if you can find your weight right over your sit bones. It will be as if you are leaning back, but you will trust your intuition where that point is to really straighten out your back. Keep the elbows quite close, the shoulders relaxed. We'll take a few turns again with the head, this time to explore our range of movement as you inhale to turn, exhaling to center, inhaling to turn, exhaling to center. Repeat that twice more. Remind yourself of the pace of your breath that is flowing fully and deeply. Inviting with these movements in alignment with your breath, that idea of inner peace. As you're centering the head, consider for a moment, maybe the eyes are closed, where you're holding tension around your neck, shoulder area. And move the head into a position where you're feeling the most stretch. Similar to what we tried when we're lying down, you might encourage the opposite shoulder to move gently downwards. You might need to change your position lightly after a couple of breaths. Releasing that first stretch and maybe finding a second one. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. Finding yet another spot that could do with some release. Encouraging your shoulders to be relaxed and downwards. Then center your head again. And we will take a deep breath in just to draw the shoulders up to the ears. And now roll them forward. Engage with your whole spine, drawing the shoulders back, inhaling, lifting them up again. Exhaling, roll them forward. You can include a movement of the back and the head if that feels right. As if you're doing full upper body waves. Pause and continue in the opposite direction. One more. Then allow yourself to sit. Maybe closing the eyes again. And we will continue as I pause the mantra for a while with 3 chants of Om. Just a reminder that the sound of Om consists of 4. 3 letters and silence, An ah sound, an oo sound, and an sound. If you like, for this practice, you can touch the hands in front of the chest, or if you prefer, you can rest your hands down onto your legs. Again, find a centered, seated point. We will inhale together, exhaling completely. Then inhaling again and out on the first Om. Allowing yourself to pause. Notice any effects from the Om. I'm going to ask you to, for a little while, keep the eyes closed and just rest your hands down. Maybe allow the palms to face upwards for better shoulder alignment. Continuing your full deep breathing with or without the Ujjayi technique, the light constriction in the throat, just breathing deeply in and out. If you struggle with the pattern of full yogic breathing, breathe in your own pattern. And notice how it feels now, right at this moment, to breathe deeply. Don't judge if you're struggling a little. Be okay with feeling good in breathing deeply. And just noticing, how is your breath? Where does it move? What's the comfortable length that you're breathing in? Once you have acknowledged that, you might choose to open the eyes as I will demonstrate Yana Mudra. We will bring our index and thumbs together. We will bring our left hand down in front and resting the hand into the lap. And we will slide the right hand on top, so that the tips of the thumbs can touch. The index fingers can touch from the second joint up to the fingernail. And we've got the other hands resting, right hand on top of the left, and all of that will rest down into the lap. Once you're comfortable with that position, you can close your eyes again. And I will ask you to once more continue deep breathing and just to be observant. Your choice if you're using full yogic pattern, Ujjayi technique, or neither of it. The only thing I'm asking you to do is breathe deeply. And to notice how this feels. Some of you might notice that there is a difference arising within you. Others might not be that aware of these subtle changes. That is okay. If you're uncertain, you might just simply separate the hands again, relax them for a moment, breathe deeply, observe. And then after a while, bringing index thumbs back together, left hand underneath, right hand on top, touching the tips of the fingers together. And then breathing continues and your observation. So feel free to allow a little while to play with the mudra and to notice any changes within your breathing. I'm deliberately not telling you what you may or may not be feeling. I would love you to just be inquisitive, curious about that arises. You may or may not have felt a difference here. For me, it is that my breath can expand more deeply into the lower part of the lungs, and with that, the movement of my diaphragm is becoming increasingly larger, pushing down into the tummy and lifting up again when the exhalation comes. That doesn't mean that you experience exactly the same. Your experience might vary from that. Let us release the mudra, and if you like, you can open the eyes, or if you want to trust my words, you can keep them closed. I will ask you to take a breath in and to open the arms and stretch into your fingers. And then to release your hands down. If you have any support under your legs, remove that first. But I will even ask you to remove the bolster from underneath. Coming to sit on the ground with your legs outstretched doesn't mean they have to be straight. You can keep them in a bend. We'll ask you to move a little bit more as we're inhaling to stretch forward and then making fists and a rowing back movement. We'll keep that deliberately slow, so while you're inhaling, stretch forward. While you're exhaling, rowing back. Now on the inhale, when you're reaching forward, flexing the feet. When you're exhaling, making the fists, squeezing your toes. Inhaling, stretch forward. Exhaling, moving back. Three more. Coming to a cross of the legs again. Likely you came into the same cross that you were using before. Take your hands to your knees and then start circling the upper body. Moving basically as much as is possible, even through shoulder separation, rolling one forward, one backwards at a time. Even the head and neck can move along if that feels good. Pause and change direction. Once again. And then finding yourself centered as we step up into a standing shape. So you might come up onto your feet, taking your time. You can use hands on thighs or whatever it is that gets you up into standing in a comfortable and supportive way. So I'll ask you to step the feet a little bit apart so you're very comfortable. Either that's hip distance or even a little bit further. Let your knees soften gently and really feel the weight on the ground. You could jiggle for a moment just to feel the connection down into the earth. A little pulsing into the knees. That ripples up very gently into the upper body, and you could loosen that as well. Then pause it. And while you take a breath in now, press down into your feet. Lift your arms, maybe lifting the gaze. That's our in-breath. And when you're exhaling, soften the knees again, soften your elbows and let your arms circle out and down by your side again, returning to the sense of being grounded. We'll repeat that again. Press down into your feet as you inhale, extend the body, then soften the knees, and as you're exhaling, releasing the arms gently and slowly back by your side. Just one more like this. Inhaling as you push into the feet, extend the body, spread your fingers, and then soften it all. Knees soft, elbows soft, fingers soft as the arms are releasing and coming back down by the sides. I will ask you to keep your feet in that comfortable distance, to let your hands come to rest upon your thighs, ideally with your fingers pointing inwards. We're going through a cat-cow movement in a standing form. So finding your stands over the feet. Sit bones can be open. As you inhale, lift your tail and lift your gaze. And then as you're breathing out, start to draw under and round your back as you're lowering the head as well. From the in-breath, lifting the tailbone first, then starting to open your chest and gaze. And on the out-breath, rounding, curling, tucking the head in. So the movement is rather slow. On the inhale, lifting through your tail, opening chest and gaze. On the out-breath, drawing your tail under, rounding through the spine. Going for 2 more. Same movement here, nothing changing quite yet. And I will ask you from there to slowly, from a rounded position, releasing your hands towards the ground. If your arms are too short for that, take your bolster, take a block, place that underneath and wiggling your feet that little bit further apart. So we're coming into a wide-legged stance. Please allow the outer edges of your feet to be parallel. If your blood pressure seems to be quite high, or you've got pressure issues around your eyes, ears, just keeping yourself in a half lift position, but allowing maybe that slightly deeper bend through the hips. If you don't have any of these problems or they are well managed, you could release the whole head down into a standing wide-legged forward fold.
Now you can still use your support if you need one, but I would encourage you with your hands resting down to lightly lift the shoulders. So it's not like we're pulling them up towards the ceiling. It's more like a little gentle lift back into the shoulder socket. Your gaze comes through between your legs, and the weight is gently sitting forward within a grounded foot. And while you're holding this, breathe. Breathe out more deeply, more longer than you're inhaling. Maybe there's a more grounding, further heaviness that you can feel around your legs, your feet. It's nothing here to do, but just to observe. What happens if you're engaging your lower belly and you're drawing that inwards when you're exhaling? Do you experience that it helps you to deepen the forward fold? Does it maybe help you to relax the upper body more when you're engaging your core on the out-breath? Please relax the core on each in-breath and only re-engage it again on the out-breath. Do that for a few more breaths and notice where you're feeling lengthening, besides that potential softening of the whole upper body. Allowing 2 more breaths here. And whenever you have completed them, wiggle your feet back to the original distance of hip distance or slightly further apart. Bend your knees a lot as you're lengthening your spine, lifting the head a little. And then place your hands back onto the tops of the thighs. And as you inhale, lifting your tail and your gaze, looking up again. And then use your hands on your thighs as you begin to round your back, pushing down into the feet. As we're rising from there, the shoulders are lifting and we're rolling them back and down. It's very likely that you feel quite grounded through the feet, which is a nice preparation to come into a balance. So for the balance, just stepping your feet a little bit further apart, and you can turn now your toes to face outwards. I will ask you, not related to a balance quite yet, to take a deep breath and stretch the arms back up, maybe open your fingers again. And then as you're breathing out, make cactus arms and bend your knees. So we've got a strong person stance. You will then shift your weight towards your left foot. Extend your arms again and maybe lift the right foot off the ground as you point it. Stretch into the arms, stretch out into the sides of the waist and find a leaning star. See if you can balance, maybe even smile. Keep the fingers spread out as if you want to smile with your whole body. Then bend the knee you're standing on, land the foot back down. Take a deep breath, straighten out your legs, extend your arms. When you're exhaling, come back to the strong person. Bend your knees in line with your toes, bend your elbows, cactus arms. Fingers stay spread out and open wide. We're shifting the weight over towards the other side. We're opening the arms up again.
And then you can start to shift the weight as you're pointing the foot. Maybe it comes off the ground. A tilted star on the other side. Hold it. Extend the joy onto your face as you lift the corners of your mouth. And then land the foot again. One more big stretch up on the inhale. This time, have a big sigh out, swing it forward. Placing your knees down onto the mat for now, and then your hands come down as well. Spread your hands out about shoulder distance apart. You might step your knees a little bit back and come into a kneeling plank, encouraging the tailbone towards your heels, so you're nice and strong in the kneeling plank pose. For me, this is often plenty, or in other words, enough strength that we're creating here just by making these little adjustments. However, if you feel you want to go stronger, lifting your knees off the ground. Just simply hold your plank, taking one breath in, one breath out, one more in, and as you're exhaling, then lowering down all the way onto the mat. Releasing your chin or forehead to the floor and allowing your arms to extend by your sides, palms of the hands touching the ground. Keep them touching for a moment as you inhale, lift your head and chest and your legs if possible. You can choose to lift just one side of the body, but maybe you want to lift your arms too, and you could do so now. Just stretching back. Keep your fingers nice and wide as we did with the standing balancing movement and a strong person. And reach right down into either your toes, or you could move back into the balls of the feet, engaging the legs more all around. Are you still holding? Then hold for another breath. And then release the body back down. Placing your hands down by your sides, pushing yourself up onto all fours, and then either sit straight back to the heels or tuck your toes under before you do so. And let the arms soften. Maybe the head lands down. If this is too deep, you might pull a support in and let the forehead rest a bit higher. From your supported child's pose, let's just walk the hands back, coming to sit upon your heels. Now, this is not where I would like you to be. If you've got a few things you can stack, you might take one block and then the bolster on top, so you could sit a little bit higher. Just a bit of cushioning will be fine as well to elevate yourself, or a lovely stack of a few books or blocks. So really, I just want you to sit a little bit higher with not too much surface left and right of you, so that there might be an element of balance. With that, you will have wider open sit bones. And I would ask you to step your feet down in front of you. Keep them at a comfortable distance, and mine are a bit further than hip distance apart at the moment. I will ask you to take a hold just underneath your knees, lengthening yourself upwards as you're inhaling, and then leaning just a little bit forward from your hips. This won't be very much. Releasing the arms, and if you like, just extending them forward. The arms can be at shoulder height, or if your shoulders and back allows you, you can lift them a little bit further. The further you're lifting the arms, the more likely you will benefit from a slight core activation. We will take a breath in. We'll take a breath out. Inhaling again. And then as you're exhaling, turning towards your right, touch your hands together. You can place the elbow onto the thigh, pushing the palms together and twisting. As your feet are grounded, just mind that the knees aren't falling inwards. If you want to take it a bit deeper, place your elbow to the outside of the knee and do what we do in the standing chair pose, encouraging elbow and knee against each other. Allowing your twist, forearms in alignment with each other, palms pressing together, elbow against the leg. When you're next inhaling, find your center. Separate the arms again. Find your light leaning forward position, the gentle core activation, and maybe lifting the arms again, if that feels good, a bit higher, even all the way up around your ears. We'll take a breath in and out. Then inhaling again. And as you're exhaling, touching the hands again and turning to the other side, you might place your elbow on top of the thigh first to explore the range of movement to this side. Or you might bring it straight to the outside of the knee. Pressing the palms together, aligning the forearms. As you're going into that twist, notice how it feels here. You can always back off a little bit. Let your breath flow. Allowing the turn in the spine, and notice what else you can feel here. When you next inhale, bring your arms back out to the front, but keep yourself in a taller seat. Wiggle your feet a bit further apart and turn the toes outwards. Time for a supported squat pose. As you place your elbows into the insides of the knees, touching the palms. So same as in our twist, the forearms will be at roughly the same height. Now, I encourage you to press your knees into your elbows and your elbows into your knees, keeping an upright tall position, maybe closing the eyes. And just focusing on what you can feel here. Sensations of breathing. As the hands are roughly at the height of the heart, you might feel into your heart connection. Last breath here. Then releasing your hands, bringing your feet back in. Take another hold of underneath your legs. Lean into the center and just sit tall for another breath. We will then come back down onto the floor. So please do have everything ready that you will need for a brief relaxation with which we will finish today. But before we go there, I will ask you to just find your way onto your back. Now, it's really depending on how your body is going, because the next one could be potentially that little bit too much. I've got lots of props around me, so I'll give you at first some variations. So feet are down on the ground.
if you feel your neck is very vulnerable today, or you've got a lot of tension around your upper back, this, what I'm aiming for, might be too much. In that case, you will lift your hips up, rest your support underneath the hips, the lower back, and then just simply extending the legs in a diagonal way over the body if that's right for you. You could, as I'm aiming for pose of tranquility, rest the palms of your hands against your shins. I would ask you then to have a really steady gaze point to the space between your hands. Now, if you feel you don't have any problems going a little bit deeper, I would ask you to lift your hips up as if you were to go into a shoulder stand, to extend your legs over the body, to then take a hold of your shins, and then to trust the weight into of the legs into your hands. Your gaze would just simply be up towards your legs, but as there's a deep stretch into the neck, make sure that the chin is lightly lifting away from your chest. And I would ask you in that case to balance in that place. You can lower the hips down onto a support at any stage if you notice it is not for you. There might be one last variation. If you've got a wall behind you, you could measure the distance towards the wall. Lift it up, maybe support your hips and place your feet against the wall. You would then look up towards your legs as well. That will release some pressure from the neck, but I would also encourage you to lift your chin lightly away from your chest to create space in the back of your neck towards the floor. Whichever position you have chosen, we might stay there for 3 more breaths. Please feel free to release that shape earlier. When you have completed, those of you who've got their hips resting on the bolster, you might just step your feet down, push the bolster a little bit forward so it comes underneath your knees for your resting pose. Others might have to roll down onto the floor and pull the bolster or whatever you're using really underneath the knees and coming right down to rest. It might feel particularly nice to have a light cushioning underneath the head. If you haven't prepared one, it's as easy as just rolling the mat in a little bit or using your hoodie if you're wearing one. That little support might release the whole pressure from the neck, especially if your legs were just floating together with your hips. Allow time for the body to settle into its place. I will put our music back on. So if you enjoy the idea of what the mantra has to offer, you might choose to go along with it. Allowing your whole body to surrender.
Might want to imagine that your next breath draws energy right into your heart center. And that on the out breaths, you can spread the energy into your whole body. Exploring a sense of calm and inner peace. And starting to deepen your breathing. Beginning to move the body very gently. Maybe having a stretch. And then rising in your own time, maybe even rolling over to your side, back into a seated position. Where we will touch the hands together at our own heart space. And allow a subtle bow of the head towards that heart space. Bowing down to our ability to reconnect to our higher self, to the divine, to find that inner sense of peace and calm, and with that of connectedness to our inner self as well as to each other. As we extend to each other, namaste.